What's up, everybody out there? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. This is your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag hairball himself, Rex XXX Ruger, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. when the hard science comes in, and we are getting close to that moment when a big announcement will be made, when the DNA testing comes in. But for right now, I'm just the host of this little podcast here that's growing bigger by the day because of great guests like the one I'm about to have come on here. And I'll tell you, man, this guy is what I think of, again, as a legend. More so because of an isolated incident, but I think of the whole spectrum because this guy does a lot of shit that I like. While we're waiting for him to pop in here, I'll pump my own bands. I'm in a new one called Disdain. Just started in another new punk band called Cock on the Whiz Table. Don't understand that. These guys are from Britain, but hooked up with them over here. Also got the new album coming up by the Jizz Drops, Meet Whistler's Delight. Be looking for that. I think we got some gigs coming up this weekend. Not sure. You can check me out on all my social media platforms. Rex XXX Rex. That's right. The son of glam, the front man for the band. Got 1 million fans. Always going out with a bang. Wop bop-a-loo bop-a-wop bang bang. Shazam. Just smoked a few grams. I am the man. I move. I sashay. I dance. I sing. I gets busy. Coming to you as always, as you look around here from the Pussycat Lounge. But I digress. Let me get my guest on here because that's what I'm really excited about. Let's see him. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? That's what I'm excited to see right there.
How's that? All right.
You look pretty good from here, man. How do I look? More importantly,
your hair is flowing. Here. How's the audio?
Good. I'm. You're freezing up for a little bit. You got your Wi-Fi turned on?
Let me make sure I got the Wi-Fi on. Hang on. Let me go back like this.
Yeah. See all the technical difficulties we still face in a supposedly technologically advanced time?
Yeah, I hear
Crazy,
you.
Right?
How's that? A little better?
That looks pretty good so far. So far, so good, Rambo. I like the shirt. In honor of you being on, I wore this one right here because after reading your last book, I think, and this is what I love about Sick of It All. First of all, if people out there living under a rock, Danny Marianino, legendary, in my mind anyway. I don't deal with anything other than legends. I mean, look at me. I'm the son of a legend, Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. You see the resemblance?
Yeah, I can tell right there. You got the flowing hair right off the bat.
And I know that you had a traumatic incident in your childhood with a poster of my dad, right?
I did.
I read about it. Yeah.
That story's hilarious.
Got your hands on some glam posters. Hey, there's nothing to be ashamed about, man. Some of the most substanceless, frivolous, stupid music came out of that era. But, I mean, we all partied to it and loved it. We were all guilty.
So that I mean, if anybody's listening that doesn't know that story, to give the brief of it, my parents went out of town. I had a monster party at the house. We had a paintball war in the basement. It was supposed to be washable paint, but it wasn't.
Shit that kids do.
Yeah, and I had no money to repaint the basement, but I traded with this girl a case of beer or 2 cases of beer for all these posters. And she didn't tell me that the posters were all like Bon Jovi and there was a David Lee Roth poster where he had this fluffy thing around his neck and he was in his tiger underwear.
I'm sure, man. Yeah.
And my dad, I had to hide the paint. So my parents came home. And a week later, my dad comes down in the basement, and he's looking at all these new posters, and he points right to that David Lee Roth poster, and he goes, "You like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's David Lee Roth, Jump." My father had the 1984 tape when I was a kid,
Oh yeah, classic, sure.
So I was like, "Yeah, Jump, Panama, all them songs." Yeah. But do you like that? And I couldn't say that.
He was.
Like,
He was wondering if you were waffling a little bit on the
He
fence.
was wondering if I was playing ball on the other team.
He
So
wasn't sure.
All I could do was just go, yeah, it's David Lee Roth, you know?
Yeah. Well, I tried covering up for myself the other day when you were kind enough to send me over a PDF copy via email of your newest book, because I really didn't know that was you on the cover. I'm not going to lie. When I said all that, I got the one with that girl on the cover. I totally just didn't want to bum you out and make you feel bad. Now that I look really hard, but I just thought, okay, he just took some, and I guess this is my own short-sightedness. I just thought this is some ugly girl or something that he went to school with back in the day that he feels like there's got to be a story about her somewhere in here, and he's defacing her picture for a good reason.
Yeah,
so my mother,
my mother made me, I think that was 5th grade, and she, like, it was picture day, and I went in and she did all my hair and made me look like I was going to be Blanche from Golden Girls. It was ridiculous. And then, so the next year for 6th grade school picture day, you know, she put me in a nice collar shirt with a little alligator again.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got to school, I changed into a suicidal tendencies join the army shirt. And it said suicidal tendencies like right up on the neck.
Oh,
it was really high.
Yeah.
And they actually airbrushed it in the school yearbook. They cut it out, and they cut it out of my no, they left it in the pictures. And my mom was like, I can't order this picture now for everybody. But they cut the yearbook, they cut it out.
But when you think back to times like that, though, right? Like, you just think like, okay, the school is just going to airbrush out the word suicidal tendencies on my shirt. Nowadays, you'd be pulled out and labeled an instant terrorist, would you not? I mean,
oh yeah, definitely.
That's how much times have changed. I mean, I think of some of the shirts even back then, which I guess by today's standards would be pretty tame. But if you wore anything that it seemed like it had too much fire or too much evil imagery or too many skulls on it, I mean, you know, you were definitely going to be another a potential Columbine shooter. I mean,
and my whole wardrobe consisted of that. I mean, we had a fair in New Jersey, the Flemington Fair. Yeah. And every year that would come in the summer before school, and I would work during the summer and save enough money, and that's why I bought all my T-shirts, Slayer, Metallica.
Yeah, it's all I own.
Metal shirt you could think of. I got the Mira pictures. Remember the mirrors in the frame?
Yeah.
Like the Metallica Master Puppets Mira. And I spent all my summer money at that fair buying merch and loot, and that was my school clothes.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm obviously sporting merch. I think when you go out to a live show, you know, you're almost doing a discredit if you really love these bands and not buy their merch, especially in today's music scene. This is how these guys are earning a living. I got one right here, actually. The last show I saw last month was Agnostic Front and Sick of It All, and I managed to buy this very nice New York hardcore. I believe this is Hoya Rocks stuff from Madball. And, you know, you got to support the scenes that you love, right? I mean, you know, you being a singer in Northside Kings, you must know that kind of stuff, right? I mean, you're not getting the big, you're not getting Bon Jovi money, you know? I mean,
no. And even if, I tell you the truth, even if I don't, I'll buy something, even if, like, I'm a bigger guy, so they don't always have 3X's going to fit.
Right. That's what I wear, too.
So, like, you're wearing a nail bomb hat there. I went to see Slapshot right before COVID. Yeah. And I know Max was a fan of Slapshot, so I picked him up a Slapshot shirt at the show, you know, because they only had up to 2X. So I bought the Slapshot shirt just to give it to him. Like, I'll pick up friend stuff because, listen, you know, album sales, nobody's making any money anymore. No. You know, you got to, all it is touring, and, you know, even with a shirt, most of the time a club and a bigger venue is going to take a piece of that. So, you know, you want to try to get your friends as much as money as possible. And, you know, that's what you got to do.
Well, Northside Kings being a hardcore band, so this is obviously a genre of music that you love. Who are the heavyweights to you? I know I just mentioned Sick of It All, but, you know, what's the hardcore that really gets you charged up and gets you off? What do you really like? You know, who are your go-tos?
I mean, Sick of It All is probably one of my top.
Yeah.
I don't know if it gets me charged up, but I'm a huge Murphy's Law guy.
Yeah.
Madball, I'm a big fan of. Agnostic Front, I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Who else would I say I really like?
What I appreciated at the show was I'm 49 years old, have had a couple of operations on my back. Unfortunately, do not mosh anymore, but got myself up to the front of they came to a dive bar out in Syracuse called the Lost Horizon.
Mhm.
And, so that's where I saw them. Got myself up to the front. A lot of moshing going on behind me, and me getting pinballed into. A lot of pushing people back. But what I appreciate the most, especially in light of this big stadium tour, and I know I've bagged on these guys before in past episodes, but where you're seeing them with these click tracks or backing vocals or these little cheats. To see a guy like Roger Moret or these guys or like Lou just in your face singing, you just can't beat that. You can't beat that level of intensity and that level of genuineness.
Those guys are not spring chickens anymore.
No,
I mean, they're
battling cancer on and off.
Yeah, I mean, Stigma's in his got his 60s. I mean,
that guy doesn't age. That guy does not age, though.
No, he's a good shit. He's rocking.
That guy has found the fountain of youth.
Tattooed recently.
Yeah, he's found the fountain of youth. I'm convinced.
It's that Mott Street water he's drinking over there. But yeah, I mean, some of these guys, like I like the Cro-Mags, and I'm a fan of John Joseph's version of the Cro-Mags because as am I. Yeah, I mean, nothing against the other guy, but John Joseph version is my way to go.
Well, I'll say it right on here. I've read both of their books, the John Joseph one, The Evolution of a Cro-Magnon, and I've read Harley's book. And if I have to believe whose side of the story is more plausible, I tend to believe what I've seen John Joseph giving on different interviews about where things went wrong. He seems to stay the most consistent, and it just seems like Harley might be the one full of a little more shit than John Joseph.
Yeah, and seeing a band play, I mean, their first album was what really affected me as a kid. So, the second album, without him, I didn't really jam. It wasn't my thing. And I'm not knocking it, but when I saw them play just maybe 3 years ago in Phoenix, I mean, fucking, it was insane. Like I haven't danced at a show in a while, and I jumped out there and started fucking moving around.
Well, John Joseph is a legit Iron Man, though. I mean, he's a legit Iron Man. Like, he does those fucking things. Run, bike, swim, right in a row, no fucking break. I mean, I'm exhausted just saying those three things. Run, bike, and swim. I mean, I need a nap.
That's funny.
Now, first of all, man, any band, man, that gives us a song called "Giving Emo Kids Something to Really Cry About" is fantastic. I mean, and I got so much shit to talk to you about here, man. Now, I also share with you a lot of these pet peeves in this last book. I feel like you're a kindred spirit. We're living in a world that just isn't quite suited for us right now, man. You know what I mean? We're just not. Anything can make me unhinged, and sometimes it's the quirkiest, weirdest of things. And you seem to be akin to that same type of attitude. Now, I want to bring a couple of these up with you. Well, in your newest book, when you talk about new school Metallica fans, elaborate on that, because I think I know what you mean, and I want to fucking strangle these guys.
Well, I mean, listen, in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, I listened to Metallica as a kid. I got right. I mean, every teacher thought I was satanic. The school was against it. I had to fight my parents on some of it.
Yeah, me too.
My mom didn't like the cross on the Guns N' Roses album cover.
Nope. My parents were the same way. My parents were the same way. Yep.
And meanwhile, my mom's like jamming fucking Paradise City in my car like a month ago. I'm like, remember that satanic album?
She caught up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, kids in school, they called us dirties. We fought about it all the time because that's the music we listened to and that's what we liked. And then today, these new school Metallica fans, you see people at the bar in their early 20s, 30s, short hair, cleaned up, clean cut looking, or even in their 40s, so excited that Metallica's in Stranger Things and they're headbanging and great for Stranger Things and great for Metallica being in that. But the people that are my age that are giving that a plus that like that now but made fun of me for it before, go fuck themselves.
Yeah. I like that Mr. Puppet song.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Metallica has done this to us, the fan, a little bit, because they were my first concert. Always been a band that I've championed. My first concert on the Injustice for All tour when I was 15, 1988. Queensryche open for them. Great show.
That was my first big tour, too.
The statue crumbled. First big show. And so I'll always have a soft spot for that band. But yeah, they did start to lose me a little bit in the load and reload years. Like when they're giving us, all of a sudden they're in the back and they're looking more, they're looking more U2 at that moment than they are Metallica, you know, polished up suits. And I'm not judging anybody by the length of their hair. I know they got a big, you know, they had a big problem with, oh, you want us to look like we did back then or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. They had a few hiccups along the way.
Yeah, listen, it's hard to recapture that same magic that you had.
Yeah,
all those albums ago, and I'm not knocking them. Listen, good for them. They were able to make a career out of it. They own the rights to their music.
Sure.
So they put out their own albums themselves. They're their own record label. They got full control, and they're doing what any musician always wanted to do. They're doing it their way, the way they want to do it.
It's the dream.
It may not be the way I like it today,
right.
but
you know. But the
the
point is, though, man, is that concert was $30 all the way around. That's ticket and T-shirt. Now that won't even get you parking at a current Metallica concert. I looked into the recent show out in Buffalo. I'm in upstate New York, so I'm between Utica and Syracuse. If you're familiar with New York State, and also and I'm thinking I can't truck all that way out there. By the time you're getting into gas and food and a goddamn $100 Metallica ticket, I never thought I'd see the day. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh, Metallica ticket. A friend of mine bought tickets to see Bruce Springsteen at the Prudential Center in New Jersey.
Yeah, what's that got to light in your wallet?
It wasn't even like in a great seating area.
Yeah.
And he paid $1,200 a ticket.
Holy shit.
For that show.
Aren't these the same guys who rallied against this early in their careers, though? Fuck the man, stick it to the man, don't go corporate, don't be all this. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I think hardcore in the metal scene, you know, kind of remains true. I mean, you could still go see a great tour. I was recently looking into this big, the Bay Area Strikes Back, the big Testament, Exodus, Death Angel tour. And it's still only like $30-$40 to see three great bands. I mean, you know, these guys get a little bit.
I hear that tour is amazing, by the way.
It's got to be. I mean, how could that tour miss? Okay, back to the pissed off points. Now I want to bring this one up. Slow dancing to Aerosmith.
Yeah, I don't like slow dancing to Aerosmith.
But did Aerosmith do this to themselves, though? Again, is it like what Metallica did with ticket prices? Is Aerosmith putting out too much non balls out rocking tunes?
They're putting too many songs out that you would go to a wedding and see a couple dancing to I could do something if I could still hear you dreaming, whatever that song is. Yeah, if I hear that at a wedding, I'm out the door, man.
Very far away from the Toxic Twins from the 70s, right? I mean, that's okay. Now here's a couple that we have in common that I really don't like. This one drives me nuts, and I'm 1,000% on board with you. Eating potlucks where somebody else at work or someplace else and just expecting to dip into, I don't know when the last time or how well you clean that casserole dish that you're bringing in your baked mac and cheese or your fucking pasta fazool or whatever the fuck you're bringing in. I don't know your habits at home. I may work with you 8 hours a day, but I'm not sure. You could have just pulled that thing out of like E. coli fucking hell, you know? And
it could have sat on your counter all night long, not refrigerated. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if you got a cat that's fucking sitting his ass and above the food, the tail is going above the food, you know, because cats get up on counters and shit.
Hey,
you know,
this kind of thinking might not be healthy, Danny, but we're fucking right. That's what matters in the end. We're right.
You know, I'm a little crazy. My wife has this stone statue of a lion, and yesterday she said it's a little small one. It's on our windowsill in the kitchen above the sink. Yeah. And she goes, "Did you look at that thing's nose? It's like flat. It's weird looking, the nose."
Yeah.
All night long, I looked at that nose in my head. And then this morning, it's right above the coffee pot. I made 3 cups of coffee today. I got the espresso machine right by it there.
Right on. Right.
I looked at that stupid thing like 10 times. I can't stop thinking about it.
You're fixated.
And I never thought about it until she said something.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned autocorrect. Now, what pisses me off, it's kind of similar, is this talk to text. It's not so easy because it fucks up at least a couple of words when I'm talking into my phone. So this fucking Siri or whatever they've stuck inside this goddamn thing, not so bright.
No, and I use too much slang, so I'm too fucked up with that shit.
Now this one is really perplexing too, and maybe you can shed more light on this because you are Italian. But the fucking Italian wedding soup, I get you on that one too. I don't fucking get it. There's nothing special that differentiates it much between regular vegetable soup, other than just a little bit of meat that they're claiming is Italian meat or a meatball or seasoned with Italian seasonings.
I've never been to a wedding that had Italian wedding soup.
Right. I've been to a lot of Italian weddings, never seen the soup. I do see it out in the stores on shelves, but I've never been served it at an Italian wedding.
It's bullshit. So they put a meatball in it and they call it Italian wedding soup. I throw a fucking wonton in it, I can call it Chinese wedding soup. That's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. And then this one really drives me crazy too. And I've watched the movie a lot of times. One of my daughter's all-time favorites. You might know where I'm going with this, but that old fucking bitch Rose in Titanic. She could have really set the family up for generations and generations to come. And she's just gonna drop it into the ocean.
Throws the damn thing in the ocean.
What gives? I mean, come on.
And it's not like she did that because she's trying to do a tribute to the guy. She didn't share a raft with the guy, the board of wood she was floating on. So he froze to death and died. She could have gone on and off a few times, and maybe they both could have lived. So,
I mean, you can feel guilty about not keeping the guy up there, man. But I don't know if I'd give 40 million reasons. I mean, what was that thing worth? They were saying, millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah. Meanwhile, their granddaughter's like floating the bill in their house, taking care of old Rose. Old Rose can go fuck herself. I
hate the same goddamn things as you, Danny. God damn it. I'm hoping we can get to the bottom of some of them. The other one, the 5-second rule. Now, I have been guilty of 5-second ruling stuff and even laughing it off under the 5-second rule. But there are certain surfaces where this cannot happen, where I do see people do it. I mean, I work in healthcare. I work in healthcare, so I'm a nurse. So I don't consider the environment that I'm working in, if you drop anything, it's garbage. I mean,
I'll never forget. I saw a guy on the boardwalk down in Jersey Shore drop a slice of pizza face down on the boardwalk.
Oh God! Oh.
And he picked it up and he ate it, and it's got people's bare feet, and sand, and bird shit.
Knows. Yeah. Some bum could have passed out there and shit his pants right there. I mean,
and I was like, and it was quick. It was below 5 seconds, but I was like, that whoever made that rule. That guy just fucking ruined the fucking rule.
Now, in your work, the thing that I like the most in these books, though, is that you're very self-deprecating about embarrassing moments in your life. Were you always that comfortable, or did you just look back at this collection of stories and just be like, this shit is just too goddamn funny. I gotta let ego go and just put these fucking stories out there?
I don't think I was that comfortable when I was a kid with it, but I was pretty mortified on some of those stories.
Yeah.
The Frank's Chicken House story I tell. This is the book where I look like a girl on the cover.
Yeah. And the thing that I do love about it is where I have it, it's on audiobook and you narrate it. The biggest problem I have with these audiobooks, and I've been having some trouble recently with my eyes, so I haven't been reading as much, but I love the audiobook. But I think if you're telling your own story, gotta self-narrate it, which I do like that you do. Tell your own story because you know where you want to put little inflections and really put emphasis on certain things in the story that you're telling. No one's going to tell it like you are.
Well, this book is full of pictures too.
Yeah,
so you're gonna have to grab the.
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
because like I tell the story about the Aruba shirt.
Yeah.
The girl said the girls at school made fun of me. They turned to Alf, retarded, ugly baby African.
Baby African, yeah, Aruba. African, yeah.
So I actually have the picture of my dad wearing the Aruba shirt in the book.
Let's see. Show it to the audience. Let's see what this.
Let me see if I can grab what page it's on.
Yeah, because there were a lot of discussions in those books, especially that one you're thumbing through right now, about a lot of flatulence, about taking a lot of hot shits in inopportune places, going through a lot of embarrassing moments that a lot of us would just want to pack in the closet and not ever unearth.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, here it is. So but that's the shirt there.
Yeah, sharp looking shirt too. I mean, it sucks when you got to catch flack for one.
Yeah, there's a great mullet picture in here too. This was going to almost be the cover of the book.
Yeah, that was a good mullet, though. You had a strong mullet game. You did. Yeah,
that was the 7th grade, the Airwalk shirt. That they also they let the Airwalk stay in there. But yeah, there's a ton of pictures in this book. Even now I talk about Hands Across America.
Yeah,
got my little certificate from when we went there. But the Frank's Chicken House story. I mean that story. So to tell the listeners that are listening. I tried to make myself look older to get into this all-nude fried chicken restaurant in New Jersey called Frank's Chicken House. It was 18 or older. I pretended I was a construction guy. I went with an older guy. I dressed in flannel. I had the whole look. We snuck in. I got sick in the place, but I got a Polaroid picture with this porn star, Bunny Blue, and I went to school with it, and I got caught with the picture, and they called my mom, and and my mom really didn't catch on to really what was going on.
Well, you had a handful of titty. You had a handful of titty too, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm sitting
so at least it was a worthwhile trip. I mean, for a young guy.
I'm sitting in the picture and I'm like this, and the girl's sitting on my lap, and I got the boob. and I took that picture to school, and somebody snitched on me and was squealed on me for it, and I got sent to the office with the picture, and they took it away.
Well, I like hearing old stories about kids being kids because I have grandkids myself now, and it does my heart good. Like when I take them up to play Little League, or my one grandson is just starting his first Pop Warner practice tonight. I like hearing about kids being kids. Like you talk about even Halloween shenanigans, throwing dog shit at cars. You know what I mean? Doing shit like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff. I remember hitting cars with snowballs, going around unscrewing people's Christmas lights and popping them in the road. The big ones would make a popping noise. Just not, I don't want to say harmful shit, but I think at least back in our era, what would be considered everyday normal kid shenanigans.
Yeah, and it's stuff we can't do today. So that's
no.
Yeah, a lot of this book kind of made me laugh about a time of, where, and it wasn't that long ago, where we did a lot of shit as kids that we would not be able to do today. I mean, my parents went to Mexico for a week. I was 15 years old. I was 16. Yeah. They left me with the neighbor who was 22, and he's like, "I'll buy you the beer, and you can go and do whatever you want."
Yeah.
And we were maniacs as kids, and
so was I. My friends.
Yeah, we got away with a lot of stuff, and nobody really got hurt or anything, and we went on with our day. And today, it's funny to look back, like that story I talk about with those Guidos. I changed a lot of names in the books.
Sure.
Actually, the guy I talk about in the book, I don't remember what fake name I gave him, but I found that he died after I put the book out.
Oh,
the guy I'm glad I changed his name. But,
probably better. I was gonna say, better you changed the name.
I found out he got into drugs. Remember, I talked about how he was into steroids.
Yeah,
and my friends attacked him with paintball guns. Party and I was hiding in the woods with the raccoon. The dead raccoon floated on me.
You guys are trying to lure him into those woods. I mean, that was your haven back there, right? You make it sound because I grew up with woods behind one of my parents' houses too, and you really learn the lay of the land, man. When you're out playing. Out in it, I mean.
Yeah, we lived back in those woods like crazy. I mean,
which kids don't do anymore. I think technology, as great as it's been in the advances that it's made, it has made kids lazy. It's made a lot of kids lazy. Like my kids, I mean, sometimes you got to throw them out of the house. They'd rather be absorbed playing baseball on a tablet than out playing baseball. And
that's not necessarily safer. Now listen, my father, he was into guns, hunting, fishing. He always had barrels of gunpowder. I could take the gunpowder and build pipe bombs. I rented a book at the library in school to learn how to build a pipe bomb. And I was building all kinds of crazy explosives with all this gunpowder in the woods. Yeah. Okay, that's unsafe, sure. But these kids today, they're getting bullied in school, and they come home from school and they're getting bullied on the internet. It doesn't stop. I think that's more unsafe than anything. I mean, we did some crazy shit, but when I got off of school, if somebody made fun of me in school, by the time I got up to the bus, if I was safe enough to get away from the bully or whatever, I got on the school bus, I was good from there on.
Usually it was old, and then it would become old news usually,
Yeah, and then you forget about it. Hopefully they forgot about it the next day, but that's a different type of, when people come into the school with guns today, I mean, as much as technology is a great thing, it's a lot more, me and my friends blowing up cars in the woods or, shitting in people's pools, off their diving board is a lot less problematic, I think, today than what's going on with all these kids today. They're all fucked up. So
now you're out in Arizona right now, but you are an East Coast guy originally, though.
New Jersey, I lived in New Jersey until I was 18. My folks got divorced my senior year of high school, and we came to Arizona on vacation when I was like 13 or 14, and my father loved it out here.
Oh, for the place. Yeah.
He's a big John Wayne guy. Even when he came to Arizona on vacation, he bought all these Indian rugs and these like skulls and stuff, and he decorated our house in New Jersey, Southwest. My friends were like, "What the fuck is going on?" So my dad was moving out to Arizona, and I could either stay in New Jersey or come to Arizona with him, and Arizona was a better choice for me. So I came with my pop.
So what's the impetus that actually propels you into the hardcore world? Who gets you into it? How do you get into it?
Well, I mean, New Jersey, I grew up as a kid going to see shows. You know, I was going to see all those bands we talked about.
Yeah.
I didn't see Madball actually until I moved to Arizona. But like I saw Biohazard probably 100 times as a kid in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Mucky Pup was another really big band for me
Oh,
out of New
man.
Jersey.
Yeah.
That was the first, probably, I would say, national act that I saw on my own without my parents taking me to a show. And it was the first band I got to play with that was like a touring band when I was in high school.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Whole thing kind of came full circle.
Yeah. A lot of things came full circle in my life. The first band I ever tried out for, I was in 8th grade, and they made me sing 2 songs. They made me sing Metallica Sanitarium, which with my New Jersey accent was like, it was like Paulie Walnuts trying to sing Sanitarium, you know. And then they had me sing Sacred Reich the American Way.
Oh, I love Sacred Reich.
I moved to Arizona, and who's my neighbors? Everybody in Sacred Reich.
Yeah.
And at one point or another, Greg Hall, the drummer from Sacred Reich, played drums in Northside Kings.
Yeah, trying to get him on I'm trying to get him on the show. We've been talking a little.
Yeah, he's got a baking thing. He dropped off some cookies not too long ago.
He's not currently in Sacred Reich anymore, though, right?
No, he's not in Sacred Reich anymore. No, but then Jason Rainey, who recently passed away, played in my old band 187. That was a local band here in Phoenix. That he played guitar for us for a little while. So the first band I ever tried out singing for, I ended up playing with 2 of the guys from that band.
That's cool. That's a cool little connection there. Yeah. You know? I'll tell you what, I wore that Surf Nicaragua EP out. I love that thing. I love it.
Great album.
Yeah. So where are you when you first start playing shows yourself? You on the East Coast or you're already out in the West Coast?
Well, I was playing shows in a high school band, but when I moved to Arizona, my brother-in-law, he came out to go to ASU at the same time, and me and him started a band in Arizona with this other guy, Rudy, who played in a few bands. He's a guitar tech as well. Worked for Sepultura, Hatebreed, a whole bunch of bands. He played in my first band in town. We put together with my brother-in-law. It was called 187. We changed the name to All Time Low, which it's not that same All Time Low, but we have it before they did. And then I kind of put that on the back burner because I went off and started playing guitar in Cause for Alarm, which is a New York hardcore band. Which I got the gig. My friend Tony Scaglione, he had moved to Arizona for a girl at the time, and we were hanging out, and they wanted to kind of put Cause for Alarm back on the road a little bit, and it was easier to put a band together in Arizona than guys being across the country. So I ended up playing guitar. I brought Rudy in on bass and Tony on drums, and Keith flew out from New York, and we went and did our, the tours and a record like that. And then me and Tony had a band in the midst of that called Eightfold that we were working on with a couple buddies. We recorded a demo, and Eightfold, after Cause for Alarm, we did a couple tours, went to Europe. Really wasn't working out. Me and Tony decided we were going to go back and do that Eightfold band, and the singer didn't want to do it. My buddy Matt, who I'm still tight with today, he went into more of like a clutch rock band called Greenhaven. They're really good, and I ended up taking that Eightfold demo and turning it to Northside Kings.
So you sound like one of the hardest working men in show business, much like myself. I am I am fronting several sleaze glam bands. See, the guys in your scene just take guys like me and just beat the shit out of me, so. All right, now I'm jumping around a little bit, asking you about the hardcore career, but some of the stuff keeps popping in, and I made notes about the book. I have so many interesting things I want to talk to you about. So, the cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Did we ever find out why your mother wouldn't put peanut butter, and what was she saving the peanut butter for? I take it you always had a surplus of peanut butter around, but it was never used in preparing your school lunches. Now, cream cheese and jelly is pretty foreign to me. I was not familiar with it until your book.
And it was disgusting. So you're lucky. You're a very lucky guy that you weren't informed of that.
Thanks, Mom.
At summer camp while the cream cheese is sweating in the New Jersey humidity.
And that's what I'm thinking about the most,
I asked my mother that, and my mother's answer to everything I didn't like as a kid is, "Oh, you love that." Like I talked about her lentil soup in the book.
You love that.
I called her lentil soup dirt soup. It tasted like dirt. And she still says to this day, "Oh, don't say that. You loved my lentil soup. It was your favorite." Like, it was never my favorite. And I called the dirt soup to my dad not too long ago. He goes, "That was the most accurate fucking thing you can say."
He agreed.
Dirt soup.
Yeah, because I love peanut butter. I even love it to the point where I will eat it right off of a spoon right out of the jar. But if my wife earmarks it for something like "don't touch that," I'm going to make homemade peanut butter cookies, or I'm using it for this. That's the only reason why I wouldn't put it on a sandwich. So I was wondering, like, was your mom like a big baker? Was she making all kinds of peanut butter filled things around the house?
She would make me peanut butter and banana sandwiches, which were okay.
The Elvis special.
I just wanted peanut butter and jelly. Put those two things together. Don't make this like this and make this like this. This is the way I want it.
Yeah. And you were also part of, in one of your schools, a school which you described yourself as kind of waspy, hoity-toity, whatever people want to refer to it as. You actually were brought a Scared Straight program to your school. You were subjected to that?
It was horrible. This guy had a fucking patch on his eye.
Yeah, Maytag. Yeah.
Maytag?
Yeah.
They call me Maytag.
My eye's gone. I love when you say it in the audiobook. My eye, they took it with a pencil. It's gone.
That guy scared the fuck out of me. And they took all our sneakers and put them in a pile. And when I got home, I was still terrified from the day.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. What do they think you're going to do if you do keep your sneakers? You're going to whip out a lace and go take one of these badass guards or inmates out? Like, that's what I wanted to try to see, get to the bottom of. Why is everybody removing their shoes and placing them into a communal pile?
I don't know if they were trying to make us feel more vulnerable.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, could be. I mean, listen, they didn't have to. When they brought that guy in with those fucking Nazi tattoos and the missing the fucking eyeball, that was enough I was vulnerable. Believe me, I was like,
right, like I would think more like, like stripped down to my tighty whities or something and fucking bent over over the bleachers with a ball gag in my mouth would feel more like than losing my sneakers. I mean, you know what I mean? You want to make me feel like I'm gonna feel in prison and scare the shit out of me. I mean, And
I got home and I told my mother about it, and I was all terrified about the day and what happened, and her answer was, "They took your sneakers." She was so worried about my sneakers.
Now, so getting back to your list of pet peeves here, and this is another one that drives me nuts. What is the upside of on demand if we're having commercials during it? I agree with you there too. If I want to watch something on demand, what I look at, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but me and my wife have a couple of go-to shows that I won't name on here because they probably are very fucking stupid. But she guilts me into these little behind closed doors little sins that I wouldn't want to admit that I watch. But
Listen, my wife First Sight. Yeah, I've seen every 90 Day Fiance.
90 Day Fiance, yeah, that's another one of them. Yeah, and of course, like all old people, we watch America's Got Talent and Dancing with the Stars because we're getting into that demographic now. So we have to know our place and sit down as almost 50-year-olds and watch this kind of shit. But commercials though. When I'm thinking about what I'm paying for in my cable package and I get something on demand, why am I not getting it commercial free?
It's not just first off, why am I watching commercials anyway when I'm paying for cable? The whole point of commercials back in the day was you got an antenna and you got television for free.
Yeah.
So they had to have commercials to compensate the cost of these television shows to make up for the cost of the free broadcast. But there's no free broadcast anymore. I'm paying fucking for cable. Even the cheapest cable that I have this is cheaper than what I have, but I have YouTube TV and I got HBO with it, and I'm still paying like $80 a month for that alone.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Forget about the high-speed internet that cost me $100 and something. So I'm still paying $200 a month to be able to watch TV at a faster speed, and I think that should be enough to compensate my fucking cost, let alone, okay, you're going to fuck me on demand as well now? I'm making you watch a commercial?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Jesus.
Nobody watches those commercials. They get up, they go take a piss. I got a TV on my patio. I go outside and smoke a cigar. That's when I go on the side of the yard and take a leak.
But the thing that's infuriating about them is, yes, they're not always as long in duration, but sometimes they'll disable the fast forward option. It'll say you can't fast forward through these.
Or sometimes they're 7 times fucking louder than than what the commercials, what the show was. So I'm outside. It's like 10:30 at night. Then I don't want the whole neighborhood to know I'm outside watching TV, and I'm watching something. It's a little quiet, and then all of a sudden, some crazy commercial for a Ford truck comes on. It scares the shit out of you. And all fucking there, dogs are barking. Everybody's like turning the lights on.
Shut up over there.
Yeah.
Now, when you started getting into writing books, what was the driving force behind that? Because you obviously tell a great story. You narrate a great story. Did you just notice this in yourself, or did somebody say, "God damn, you ought to be writing these stories down"? Did somebody kind of give you a little push to do that?
I used to have a website with some friends called ICouldSmellYourBrains.com.
Yep.
And it was like a pop culture type website that mainly focused on horror, but it focused on like crazy action movies and funny comedy stuff. And we interviewed people. We did this like interview with musicians we used to called Quiz of the Dead. And we would interview like Henry Rollins and ask Rollins on his like these 10 questions that were like our standard. What's your favorite horror movie? Who's your favorite character? What was the first movie to scare you? It kind of incorporated music and movies, and we wrote, and we had a podcast. This was before podcasts were like a big thing.
Right.
But I wrote before that for some zines and some other stuff. So I always kind of wrote stuff and short stories in school and that sort of a thing. So the first book I did was that Don't Ever Punch A Rockstar book, which was basically, and it started off as me assembling all the hate mail I got from Danzig fans from that time period. And
I was going to eventually touch on the story, Danny, but I know that you're trying to kind of put some distance between you and the story or whatever. But and I'm respectful of that, because you don't want to just hang your hat on one goddamn incident for the rest of your life.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, that was my first book, and I basically started writing down some funny stories to add to that book, and I created kind of a book that tells a story of what it's like to play in a small band. Yep. To tour, and it's not you're going on a tour bus and everything's all fucking hunky dory. Right. You're eating potato chip sandwiches.
Right.
Not even cream cheese and jelly. You're on potato chip.
You got to look like the guys in Poison for the strippers to be bringing you pizzas and beer.
Yeah, you're not getting any of that shit. You're lucky to be having enough gas to make the next show. So I kind of tell the story of that, and I really enjoyed putting that book together. So then I went back and I started, after I finished that book, I went back and kind of looked at my old website, and I talked about doing like a zine on revenge movies. Yeah. Because I love revenge movies, whether it's Freddy Krueger in a horror movie revenge, coming back to get the kids of Elm Street, to to Charles Bronson getting revenge. Yeah. For who did his family wrong, to nerds getting revenge, or Porky's.
I'm always rooting for those guys.
I'm always rooting for people doing payback.
Yeah.
So but I put it all together in this book called the Mega Book of Revenge Films. So after I did that, I said, you know what, I'm really liking this book thing, and that's when I went into more books.
So like these next ones that you're putting out, because I know that you mentioned Don't Ever Punch A Rockstar, and you're so what are you doing with that now? You're reworking it, because you had said in your email to me that it's going to be coming out again in the fall. Is this like a reissue, or?
So I when I wrote that book, I was a little angrier, because at the time he was doing a lot of interviews and talking poorly about me.
We'll get to him. We'll touch on him. On him, Danny. That's all. You don't deserve that much.
I wrote a little angrier version of that book than I would have liked.
Yeah.
So, I'm playing in a band, sometimes you record a song, you go, man, I could have did this or that a little better.
Yeah.
So I kind of went in and rebrushed up the book, added more humor to it. I wrote an addendum to it, which talks about like book reviews that I got like after the book came out, and which is really funny from Danzig fans like attacking me.
You brought people up to speed. Yeah,
I brought everybody up to speed, and this publisher, DeWolf Publishing, they put out this really cool book on city gardens that came out a few years ago. City Gardens was kind of like the New Jersey's version of the whiskey.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
CBGBs.
Right.
More
Right.
CBGBs.
Iconic club. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in Trenton, New Jersey, and everybody played there. So they did a book on that. They did rolling back. This book here is book Hard Times, which
Okay.
is like all the Hard Times.
Oh, I see Rollins on the cover there. Is that a young Rollins?
That's a young Rollins. A young
By the
Danzig,
way, who by the way is somebody that I want to reach out for to have on here. I met him once after one of his spoken word gigs, but just very intimidated. And I'll usually reach out to just about anybody. Rollins, in his older age, has definitely softened some. The old Henry Rollins, when his neck was like a thigh, was very intimidating. But I mean, he's one of those guys that you really got to come with it though, and make sure that you're keeping him interested and engaged, because he's one of those guys who's thinking up here while everybody else is way down here.
He's 3 questions ahead of you.
He is. He's he's definitely an intimidating guy, I think.
The Wolf Publishing is redoing the book.
Yeah.
They're editing it because I edited it original myself.
And then you look back and realize I need an editor. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, at one point I put the same picture in twice of our guitar player. I didn't even catch that one. I had the same picture. So
it's hard to self-edit. It's hard to self-edit though.
Yeah, it is. And
because we all think our shit is amazing. We don't want to take any of it out.
Well, you hear your own voice as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You read it in your own voice, and my own voice is not always saying what I should be saying the right way.
Right.
Especially with punctuation. So
right.
So they redid it, and it should be out like I think before Christmas.
Okay.
They're doing a layout right now of that. So I got that coming out, and then a couple other things I'm working on.
What about on the music front?
Nothing really on the music front. As the years went on, my hands really started hurting a lot, and I get these pains where I don't even feel my fingers on the strings anymore.
Well, when you're bouncing them off Glenn Danzig's head, that's bound to happen, Danny. I mean, all for a good cause, though.
Well, I haven't picked up my guitar in a while, and every time I do it, it hurts. And I got to be honest with you, I don't have that angst that I had back then.
Okay.
I mean,
you'll always be hardcore at heart, but
yeah, when I was in Northside Kings and I was writing those songs, for the last couple of years, Northside Kings, I just sang, but I did play guitar, and I wrote a lot of the songs too.
Yeah.
When I used to sing and play when we first started, and I realized that that's not the way they do it for a hardcore band. When people are trying to grab the mic, it's hit me in the mouth because I'm playing guitar.
Yeah.
But I was writing in a different frame of mind back then, and I'm not in that frame of mind anymore.
Yeah.
I've written some music for some songs, and I got some cool songs that I may hit up some friends and some other bands and be like, "Hey, you want this?"
Right.
But I don't see myself really doing much with music.
Right. Well, you got to be, it's like you said, you got to be able to go there. You know what I mean? Like, I like to go out and work out, and I like to work my heavy bag and punch a little bit, but I'll put something like Suburban Royalty on because it gets me into that kind of mood to kind of do that stuff. Or, Victim in Pain, or Sick of It All, or some old school death metal or some thrash. You know what I mean? Like, so if you can't get in touch with that part of yourself and really tap into it, it probably is better to step away rather than shortchange people and go through the motions.
I'll hear a new album like that Corpse Grinder album. I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
And, because basically that guy from, what was that band that he sang? Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
He went off and did a solo album with that Corpse Grinder.
It crushes. Yeah.
It's like a hardcore album with him singing. And
yeah.
And I heard that, and I was like, boy, would I love to do this again. So sometimes I hear an album and I get all fired up. And I get that buzz again to do it, but then would we ever
see you do something out of the realm of what you normally do? Like, would you pick up an acoustic guitar? Would you do something that's like, like an Everlast did when he left House of Pain? All of a sudden, he's a folk singer, or like, would you ever explore any other genres of music?
I'm not that good of a guitar player, but. I have kind of kicked around the thought process on that Suburban Royalty album, that song we did with Puerto Rican Mike called The Hustle Don't Stop.
Yeah.
I have kicked around doing some songs with some of my friends that are in some hip hop bands.
Okay.
That are along the lines of that.
Right.
And I have talked to Tony Scaglione, our original drummer, and he was into it. And I spoke to Todd that played the guitar in Northside Kings. He was a bass player for Warzone as well. He's into it.
Right.
So, you know, if I can ever kind of sit down and wrap my head around that, I know that if I got Tony Scaglione out here, we went in the studio, we could bust out like 8 to 10 songs and
something similar to something similar to what like Danny Diablo does. You know what I mean? Like with like Scarhead or, you know, something with a hard edge and a hip hop, you know, layer to it.
And have all different guest singers on it.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be cool. All right. Twist my arm, Danny. I'm in, man. Where does Rex Ruger sign up, man? What track you need? Or am I still too glam? I can't get in on this project either.
I'm okay with all kinds of people. Everybody's got a little influence to bring something to the table.
Hey, and like I always tell people, man, my favorite female singer is Bret Michaels. It always will be, and it always has been. And I'm not ashamed of that. So how do you feel about the whole? I touched on it earlier, the whole audiobook thing. Will you continue to make these audiobooks, and will you continue to narrate themselves? Will they be available in that format?
Yeah, I actually there's an actual book. I don't want to say it because I don't want somebody else to jump on it.
Okay.
But there's a great book that I read as a kid that they made a movie out of, that I've read the book like 5 times. It's based on a true story on a guy that nobody's done an audiobook for. And I'm trying to it's not even my story, it's somebody else's story.
Yeah.
But I want to go in and record the audiobook for it. And it's gotten to the point where I found the law firm is the last leg that owns the rights to stuff. And the law firm I can't seem to find, they don't exist. So I'm trying to track down who owns the rights to this book because I want to do that. I don't know if I would do one with Don't Ever Punch a Rockstar because the hate mail is really is the fun part of that book, and it's scattered through the book.
Right, and reading the grammar or the lack thereof from some people is probably quite amusing. The mistakes and such. I mean, that probably does add some entertainment to it for sure.
It does. When you read the misspelled words and everything else, that makes it funny. But I want to do a continuation of this to make matters worse. I think. Yeah,
I like that.
I got a lot more stories that I did not put in this book.
You've held back. You've held out on us.
I did. Well, I figured, hey, listen, how much can I keep telling crazy stories? It's going to get boring at some point. So I stopped in this, but like, for example, I got a great story with when I met Sean Lennon.
Okay. The late John Lennon's son. Okay.
And it was a story where I was drunk and he was really cool, but I did something totally ridiculous.
You may have embarrassed yourself a little.
Completely. And it's a great story.
Is he rock royalty though? And being that you brought them up, what the hell happened to the other one? It seemed like Julian really got fucked up the ass bad, didn't he? Like he got left nothing. They really seemed to favor Sean. But remember, Julian Lennon had a career for about 15 seconds back in the 80s.
It's much too late for goodbyes.
Yeah, ever since you've been. I mean, but
I've been wanting to cry.
Yeah.
He sounded exactly like his dad. When you really listen to that song, he sounds just like his pop.
I wonder why the no love for him, though. Like, what was he, like some kind of, like, did John look at him with some kind of animosity, or?
Oh, I think John Lennon probably died a little premature, and maybe he didn't plan out enough, and Yoko Ono was like, that's not my kid, this is my kid. So maybe that's the story.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. If Julian Lennon's out there, I'd love to hear something from him, man. He's got to still be alive, right? He couldn't be a terribly old guy. I mean,
actually, his album was really good. I remember I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I think we can admit that now, and not be labeled the dreaded poser. I've talked about that on past shows where like you got labeled. I mean, just talking about like my own upbringing. I mean, you might have felt the same thing. Like when you're growing up and someone finds out that you might not be flying the metal flag all the time and might have something behind closed doors that you listen to that's not metal.
Yeah. Well,
you're looking for that.
I'll give you the perfect example. My father listened to this album when it came out like crazy. And I thought it was so dopey. And as an adult, it's probably one of my favorite albums today. Is the Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah, my dad dug that album too. My dad really dug that. Yeah, and I think that was like a super group before the term really well. I mean, it existed back when guys, got together in like Blind Faith, when Clapton and Ginger Baker and stuff. But that was really more like, the first one that I remember in my era, being alive and listening to music. It was like Petty and the guy from ELO and
Petty, ELO. You had Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison,
yeah,
George Harrison. I
yeah.
mean, what a group of fucking guys.
I know.
Putting an album together. And then now Roy Orbison died and didn't do the second album. But the second album's still really good, too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought them up. I'm going to go back and check them out again. I'm glad you put them on my radar again. I completely forgot about them.
I appreciate it so much more now as an adult, knowing those guys' careers and understanding their music and everything else. To look back, as a kid, I'm like, I don't fucking Tom Petty. That's the guy that did the "Don't Come Around Here No More" video with the Alice in Wonderland. I don't give a shit about that. And Bob Dylan,
I know. The nasally twang. Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it. I was too young to understand. I was busy listening to the Fat Boys.
Yeah.
I was busy listening to Anthrax.
And then it really does become true. You go back and you ended up listening to a lot of your parents' music. You know what I mean? I knocked a lot of it and laughed a lot of it off. And then I went back and tapped into a lot of those little pearls of wisdom and those nuggets that my father gave me, and went back and even checked out like a lot of classic rock, a lot of blues stuff. I think my father was big into the blues. I mean, I just went back and realized like, wow, man, like these guys are genius musicians,
it's another great thing that I loved as a kid, but I underappreciated it. And now as an adult and having the option to go back and watch it, I'm blown away, is the Muppet Show. When you look at the guest list of people, so my niece got Disney Plus. My niece has no idea who Red Buttons is, or Harvey Korman is, or Johnny Cash is, or all these guests that were on the show that were, they're long gone, they're long
legends
dead.
Yeah.
Don Rickles.
Yeah.
I mean, to see these people that now as an adult, I didn't give a shit about them when I was a kid. The only ones that I remembered as a kid that I really liked was Sylvester Stallone's because of Rocky.
Yeah, me
and
too.
Star Wars one, and outside of that, I didn't know the rest of these players. I saw Blazing Saddles, so I knew who Harvey Korman was, but I didn't appreciate it as much. And it's funny that this new generation has Disney Plus, and these young kids are watching it, and they're probably, imagine watching a show. There's all these guests. You have no fucking idea who they are.
I know.
Who is that guy?
I think that same thing. I've been fortunate enough to come across somebody who posted some really good stuff up on YouTube with those old Dean Martin roasts. And I look up at those daises and I think, what? The talent that's up there probably just blows away anything that they could put up at a head table, and put out there now. When you're just looking down at all those guys that were just, stars, real stars, and guys that maybe I got a record, comedy records, Red Fox and Slappy White. And I'm like, who the fuck is Slappy White? I have no idea who Slappy White is. Yeah.
I'm watching one of those Dean Martin roasts, and who comes out but Slappy White?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the guy who I've been listening to on this record,
Yeah. Yeah, you put the name with the face finally. Yeah. Well, I grew up on those sitcoms too. I mean, Chico and the Man and Sanford and Son and just all those Three's Company. The sitcoms were just so much better back then. I mean, you really got your money's worth. I mean, you got 25 minutes of laughs, I mean, that slapstick stuff that John Ritter would do, falling over the couch and stuff. I mean, you don't see physical comedy and just genius level comedy like that no more. I mean, it's all just like the witty banter. I mean, yeah, your Friends and your Seinfeld had humorous moments, but it's more just dialogue, I mean,
John Ritter was unbelievable on it.
Yeah, a genius.
Absolute genius. And
so so when you're out in Arizona, that heat doesn't just get to you and make you say, "Let's fire up another hardcore album."
That heat makes me hide from the world.
So obviously, working in a genre like that, where you haven't amassed a fortune. So I take it. So you go out and work a day job then, right?
Yeah. I work a day job, and I mean my office. I work from home.
Oh, that's nice.
We're in my office that I work.
Oh,
in.
Nice.
It's basically my toy room.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that in the background there.
It got to a point where my wife was like, you know what? This needs to all be in the same room, and it's all.
Yeah.
I have a collection of Arnold Schwarzenegger toys.
I love it. I love it. You know what the sad part? You know what the sad part is though? Is that's what my music store down here, my chain music store, looks like now. That's my pet peeve. I don't know what you have down there for record stores, but the best one I have up here, and I use best very loosely, is an FYE, and that's in our mall. And I've watched the heavy metal section in particular, but just the CDs in general, just creep down to like a little shelf, and it's all like the Funko Pops and action figures and toys, which is great in a store of itself. But and I know it's FYE for your entertainment, but it just seems like we're seeing CDs slowly being phased out, and I don't think we're seeing more physical copies of anything anymore.
We're seeing that here. We have a really cool chain called Zia Records here. We have a couple record stores like Stinkweeds, the Ghosted East Side Records is a cool place too, but and there are a lot of punk and hardcore at those stores. Zia Records they got about 8 locations, privately owned, and the guy sold to another guy, privately owns it. They got a spot in Vegas, 1 or 2 spots in Vegas, mostly in Phoenix. They sell new and used stuff, and you can really find some cool shit there. Their CD section has shrunk, but their vinyl section is blown up.
Right.
So where CDs used to be, and where vinyl was in the corner, now the CDs are moved to the corner, and a big chunk of the store is all vinyl, which is, I have a record player, but I mean, if I'm buying an album today, I'm probably only buying it on vinyl because my car doesn't even have a CD player in it.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to be going forward.
I bought a Kia last year, and it didn't come. I'm like, where's the CD player? Like, the guy's like, what? Like, he laughed at me.
So there's a good chance. So there's a good chance when this vinyl craze, and I know it has made a resurgence, but if it dies out, I mean, we probably in our lifetime will see the actual ending of the physical product. Everything will be through our phones or through our computers and Bluetooth.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how.
Ever think you'd see it? I mean, crazy, right? I mean, it's
crazy. That's how I'm buying a lot of albums myself. I mean, especially since I don't have a CD player. And the last one I bought was it was 2 years ago, was the last Body Count album.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was the one that Body Count put out like a year or two ago. That was the last CD I bought. Outside of that, I've bought probably, Slapshot Played. I bought the record, or a couple bands that came through that I'm friends with that bought some of their albums.
That's buying merch, though. Yeah,
that's buying merch. Yeah. I mean, other than that, I'm buying stuff digitally, and I'm not even buying a whole lot digitally because I pay for Amazon's music thing.
Right.
I pay like $8.99 a month or something. I have unlimited of every album at that point because Amazon gives you the music thing free with Amazon Prime.
Right.
But they don't give you every album with Amazon. When you pay for that $8.99 subscription, you can listen. Like I was listening to that Corpse Grinder album like that day it came out.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to validate going out and buying a CD when my wife pays, and everybody in the family can get on the Apple Music plan. So it's tough to justify when I can literally go in, listen to something. Even if I don't want to keep it in the library, I can just delete it after I listen to it. You know what I mean? So it's hard to justify saying I need to go out and buy this as much as they like to help support the bands. I mean, and a lot of the problem is you're going out and spending $15 and upwards on CDs, and nobody really, nobody really seems to put out a great album, and everybody's opinion seems to be different about this. Do you put out the fully realized album, 10, 12 songs plus? Do you go the EP route? There's a lot of people just dropping singles, so it's very hard to go out and really get jazzed up like for an album anymore because a lot of it's going to be filler and very little killer, so to speak, I mean.
But that's the funny thing. I've been really enjoying on finding some of those old records that I had when I was a kid because like I bought I didn't buy it. I actually had the cassette. I found a bunch of cassettes.
Cassettes out there, audience, for you kids out there that might be watching. That's something that we listened to, us crazy guys listened to back in the 80s.
I still have about 10, 15 cassettes. and I was listening to Exodus, Impact is Imminent.
Yeah, a classic.
I haven't listened to that whole album. I mean, when I pop in Exodus on my playlist, the Toxic Waltz comes up, Bonded by Blood, 1 or 2 songs off Pleasures of the Flesh,
staples,
Fabulous Disaster, a couple other songs, and I think AWOL off of and the Lunatic Parade on that Impact is Imminent album, but none of the other songs. And I sat and listened to the whole album like I did back in the day as a kid, and I was like, wow, there's actually a lot of other cool songs I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
Because I'm not listening to the whole albums on these. I'm only listening to the choice tracks. And there's maybe some good songs that are getting buried into the mix. So I've been trying to listen to more full albums as of late, to try to kind of revisit some songs that like I totally forgot about. You know?
Yeah. Well, I like the approach that the Northside Kings took to hardcore, because in my mind, when I'm picturing that pure hardcore sound, you know, the crunchy, the big crunchy riffs, the melodic breakdowns, the crushing vocals, you know, good spots throughout the song to dance to, you know, I mean, if you're not old and broken down like I am, can still get into a pit. Who is the template for you guys when you guys were coming up with your sound? I know I asked you about influences, but that's a pretty traditional hardcore sound that you guys have.
I would say Northside Kings was a combination of three bands. It was a combination of Propane, which I'm a humongous fan of.
Okay. Yep. And haven't heard from them in a minute, huh? Are they still doing stuff?
I think they tour really in Europe is pretty much their deal.
Yeah.
But Propane, Biohazard, and Sheer Terror.
Okay. So that explains the big breakdowns and the good crushing, you know, the good crushing grooves. You know, because it isn't all just about just blinding speed and blast beats. I don't think, you know what I mean? Because I don't think all that is danceable.
And I got to tell you, too, with Luke's influence and the bass player, Tommy Quiet, because those guys wrote songs, too.
Yeah.
You gotta add in, like, Dayglow Abortions and Anti-Nowhere League, because, you know, those guys grew up more punk rock guys. I grew up more of a metal guy in New Jersey, and
me too.
I started going to some hardcore shows. I was a little scared to go see Agnostic Front because I heard you get beat up at their show.
Me
too. You had long hair, and I had long hair, you know, so not as gorgeous and flowing as yours, but it was.
Who could be?
I had Dan Lilker, Agnostic Front.
It's a good time for some product placement right here.
I had that Nuclear Assault afro is what I had.
Oh, nice. One of my favorite all-time thrash bands. Love Nuclear Assault. Trying to get John Connolly or Danny, one of them, to come on here, man. Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah, they were
underrated. Criminally underrated.
Completely. But, you know, I grew up watching those bands, and those guys, you know, some of the other guys in my band grew up with more of that punk influence. So that's why you hear a little bit of that punk style mixed into the mix from them. You know?
Well, I think back to those, and it's funny you brought up thrash, because I think back to the, you know, like my idea of the greatest thrash bands and the greatest thrash albums would probably differ from a lot of people who are casual or just, I wouldn't have a Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, or Anthrax album even in my top. I mean, the greatest, most classic thrash albums of all time to me really don't include any of those bands. I know probably some real, you know, thrash pioneers and some, you know, they're viewed as thrash pioneers, and probably some purists out there are going to say, how can you not have Kill 'Em All or Peace Sells or, you know, Rain and Blood? But I don't. There are better thrash albums out there. There are.
Nuclear Assault, Handle with Care.
Handle with Care is always in my list. I love Eternal Nightmare by Violence. One of my favorites is Beneath the Remains by Sepultura. Probably my all-time favorite thrash album. I love Extreme Aggression by Creator. I mean, I like bands like that next tier down, or at least what the, you know, the commercial public, the record buying public would think of that next tier down, because obviously we're told to think that these big four are the big four of thrash, you know. But
I liked Obituary a lot too.
I do like some death metal. Yeah, I've started to lose the ears as I get older. You know, for I had Eric on, the singer for another Arizona guy, Flotsam and Jetsam, another huge thrash band that I love. That I love those guys, and
we played with them before.
He referred to the death metal stuff as the Cookie Monster vocals, which now when I listen to death metal, it's hard for me not to just think of Cookie Monster, the visual of them. It's so hard, like you know, you try to look at a band like Deicide, or, you know, who's looking so tough. Not so much Obituary, because they kind of have their own.
Obituary was a little slower, and that's
a little slower. Yeah.
They had a little groove to them. They were a little slower. I saw them before the pandemic. It was listen to this lineup.
Yeah.
Agnostic Front, Hatebreed, Obituary, and Prawn.
That's quite a mix. Yeah, that's an
The
eclectic.
song
Yeah, that's
was fucking unbelievable.
yeah. I imagine they would be. I've never had the opportunity to see them live, but have always loved them. And Corpse Grinder, I had the pleasure of meeting him a year or two ago when Cannibal Corpse actually came to this area. Man, super nice guy, but nobody in their right mind would tell him he has Cookie Monster vocals anyway. The guy's got a neck like this. I mean, he does that windmill headbanging thing that no human can keep up with, and he's a pretty intimidating guy. Very sweet guy, but very intimidating.
I bend over and I get vertigo. Forget about it.
I know. Yeah. Well, because he does lay out a challenge in some shows to try to keep up with them. I think it's at the beginning of one of those songs, "I Come Blood" or one of those crazy titles that they have. And he starts out and he goes at it for about a good minute and a half. I mean, yeah, you'd be dead on the floor if you tried to keep up with him. You know, I mean, it'd be impossible. So, how are your How is your oral hygiene habits these days? I know you mentioned that your mother was really big on toothbrushing and really forcing you to brush your teeth a lot. You seem to look like you have fantastic teeth, so it paid off.
I do. She used to headlock you and brush your teeth and yell out the window on the way to school, get home and brush your teeth if you didn't brush your teeth.
I'm very fortunate because I'm very fortunate. I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, man, who loves to brush her teeth. And how can you really, sometimes she'll do it 4 or 5 times a day, but how do you tell her no? You know, I mean.
I tell you, I'm into this new toothpaste. It's Crest makes. It's a charcoal one. So
yes.
It's like I got like black metal toothpaste. I love it.
Yeah, I've got a charcoal brush too. You can get the bristles charcoal too.
Oh, I look into that.
They're very nice. They recommend them. I mean, I don't know. It seems like everything has its moment in time to be recommended, you know. And then 5 years from now, charcoal toothbrushes will be, cause cancer. You know.
Yeah, of course.
If you or someone you know use the charcoal toothbrush, contact this attorney. You know.
Well, they say don't use, when you cook on a grill, too much charcoal is no good for your food. So how is that going to be good in my mouth? But
what really? Yeah, but when it boils right down to it, you can't put yourself in a bubble, though. I mean, what the fuck do they tell you is good for you? You know, I mean, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It seems like.
You hear guys get E. coli from eating bell peppers. So, you know.
So whatever happened to the infamous, as aforementioned, Aruba shirt?
That's long gone. I think it got shit on in my gym bag. No. I had to wear that all day after.
And were you one of those Italian kids? Were you one of those Italian kids that had the good olive skin and the good tan? Why would this girl refer to you and use that last A as an African? Were you big into hip hop?
No, but I did have that olive oil skin and that guinea charm. So
the Godfather reference there, yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, of course I do.
Fontaine doesn't get no picture. Yeah.
So
kids are cruel, you know.
Yeah, they really are.
Cool. I was talking with a friend last night, a couple nights ago on a podcast, and his last name is Packer. And he was saying how, like, kids in school, I don't even have to tell you what they call them for his last name.
You already see where it's going, I know. Yeah.
And it made me want to make a list of all my friends
to
hear what their nicknames are. Because I got a few from some bands. We mentioned Sacred Reich.
Yeah.
Greg Hall told me that they used to call him Beach Ball Hall.
Oh man, yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big guy.
I used to get Danny Marinara or Danny Meatball or Danny Maraschino. I mean, it was some kind of Italian, food type slang.
But the good thing is, though, man, is that these were given to you. You were dubbed these by other people because one of your other ones in the book was giving yourself a nickname. That's a no can do. Can't do that.
I got a nickname. One of my friends calls me Danny Lollipops.
Yeah.
Because when I quit smoking years ago, I was eating lollipops all the time.
Yeah.
And then and I was a lollipop guy for Halloween. It happened to be that same year. So that's the end of it. It's Danny Lollipops to him. Or he calls me Clemenza sometimes. That's another one.
Clemenza?
Clemenza. That's my other
Clemenza's a good one.
Yeah.
I can see the Clemenza.
I got a lot of nicknames,
Yeah. I was almost going to call you Billy Milano, too. You could have pulled off the Billy Milano, too.
Billy was a big influence growing up too. That USA for MOD album, that was probably the first heavy album I bought. As a kid, because I was in the Weird Al and funny stuff. And then somebody said, if you like that funny stuff, these guys got songs about don't feed the bears and
I had all my grandkids were group singing Bubble Butt the other day. But the thing that really bothered me though, man, one day, or it didn't bother me, I thought it was kind of hilarious, man. But for some reason, the way my Bluetooth is synced up and I have my music in there, when I start my car on, my playlist just comes up and it always just automatically just populates to a certain song. And it's always the same song, and it's AIDS. So there's them yelling anally inflicted death sentence, and I'm thinking, wow, that is so politically incorrect. Like,
it's horrible for that.
Horrible. Yeah, horrible. I mean, Billy he seemed to lack a lot of couth, but the stuff was just so goddamn funny.
I've sang Bubble Butt with MOD before, and I think we played it for like 5 minutes. It was like 5 minutes of us just doing Bubble Butt back and forth.
If nothing else, his songs are very anthemic. You know what I mean? Like at least everybody can kind of get behind them, and and I think that's a sign of a good hardcore song. And speaking of what you said earlier about being scared, I remember my first actual hardcore show was supposed to be the Cro-Mags, and I remember again getting to the Lost Horizon, and they had a thing up in the foyer there where you paid to get in, and it said the Cro-Mags just broke up 2 weeks ago. So I'm thinking, oh, that kind of sucks. But in a way, I was relieved, man, because I had heard the same thing about Cro-Mag shows. Oh, the punks are going to turn out. Chairs, bar stools have been flying in these places or whatever. So instead, we ended up getting Earth Crisis, who is from Syracuse. You know what I mean? So it made sense. It made sense for them to play, and some other local hardcore bands in their place or whatever. But yeah, I felt the same way. Like I'm going to go in there with these guys with these big mohawks and big boots and suspenders, and they're just going to be throwing stools at me and chairs, and
Even Earth Crisis was a little scary for a little while, and some of those guys that would go to their shows. So Earth Crisis played Phoenix a lot. I always went to see him play.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I went with my buddy Fatty, and the whole show was a bunch of straight edge people.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, a guy with a nickname Fatty, he's always got a fatty on him.
Yeah.
And he lights up a joint at the show.
Yeah.
And Carl from Earth Crisis yells out like, "Who's smoking a joint?" like aggressively.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Fatty, we're gonna get into a fight tonight.
Yeah.
But the next time they came through, they were not as militant-ish and a little bit more chilled. And Fatty smoked a joint while they played, and they didn't even care.
Now, militant,
you
get the sense that that some or any of the members have taken a step back on their straight edge beliefs, or just in general they weren't so strict about other people doing it.
I think at the time they were just more strict about other people doing it. Realized, listen, I'm not going to do this, but if you want to do it, you do it.
Yeah, teach his own type of attitude. Yeah,
I mean, we got to chase people out that came to see you. Only time I ever chased anybody, I was a white power guy. If you want to come to our show with a chicken parmesan sandwich or a joint, I don't give a fuck.
But I like that fear, though. I like that fear. And I was telling my son this one day that back when there wasn't so much exposure and you couldn't get so much information about the bands that you loved via the internet or whatever, and you just had magazines and word of mouth or whatever, or just like the liner notes inside of a CD where some of those bands would just put the hair over their face. And I like the fear element. I used to be terrified, like just imagining what the guys making this death metal music actually looked like. And I like that feeling of a little bit of fear in my death metal. Now there's a band, it's funny you mentioned Pantera and Phil Anselmo, because that's what made me think of it as soon as you said throwing out a white power person, because he famously had that incident at the Dime Bash there. But I think back to this band that he turned me on to called Portal, where he goes around and talks up this Australian band, and they come out in terrifying costumes, executioner's masks, and the singer, I don't know if you've seen them, sometimes he'll come out with one of those old school Victorian clocks on his head, or almost like a confessional booth. Very committed and very dark and scary. And I'm like, this is what I like. This is what death metal, when you just listen to those guys, you would just be like, wow, these guys have to be terrifying. I mean,
there was a band I went to see. My wife just moved to Arizona.
Yeah.
And she's from New Jersey. And my friends, they were in a hardcore band called Kill Your Idols.
Okay.
They got like a death metal band now. Most of the guys from Kill Your Idols.
Yeah.
They're called Black Anvil. They're really good.
Yeah.
But they were on tour with this band. God, I can't remember the name, but it begins with an M. And we get to the club, and the club smells horribly. And I'm like, what do they got, a sewage problem or something going on? And when the headlining band goes on, they were touring with animal heads, like they got from a butcher.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
put them on these spikes.
yeah,
So these heads were rotting, and they were in the club. And
yeah,
then they were on the stage, and they had like all kinds of satanic looking shit. My wife bugged the fuck out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
She was
yeah.
like,
I'm
"What
not
kind
into
of costume did you just take me to?" And I'm like, "I just came to see my friends play." What was the name of that band? So make me nuts. Boy, I can't remember. But
somebody like
yeah,
a more like somebody like a Morbid Angel.
nah.
Even scarier than them, huh?
I'll remember like tonight at 2 in the morning.
Well, I remember seeing a documentary on old deicide, and they used to bring in like old carcasses, and they let them rot for a few days, so there'd be flies on them, and they would bring them in as part of the show, and they would like poke a hole in them and let the old blood like drip onto the stage, and I'm just like, yeah, that doesn't even seem sanitary, much less. But then again, I mean, like look at the shit that G.G. Allen used to run around on stage and do, smears feces on people and fucking.
Yeah.
A character, yeah. I mean, absolute nut, right? I mean,
crazy.
So, I guess I want to bring up, because you mentioned the nail bomb hat. You've done some collaborating work with Max Cavalera, right? Or appeared on some albums.
I'm actually on the live Nail Bomb album. I didn't play on it, but they prank phone called me.
Okay.
And that song "While You Sleep, I'll Destroy Your World."
Yeah.
They prank phone called me on that one, and I get all crazy. I'm like, "Come on, tough guy, talk." I'm like on the phone. They called me like 12 times. They just kept recording it, and finally I got like angry because I kept hanging up, and I kept hearing.
Well, Max is an Arizona guy, right? He's down there too, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's definitely he's definitely
practice right across the parking lot from him. We
he probably runs neck and neck with Henry Rounds for me as far as like dream guests. I don't know like what's your I'm sure it was good or whatever, your interactions and working with him or whatever, but he's just a guy that just strikes me as just, there's no pretentiousness with him. That guy is just metal through and through. You know what I mean? He can't put out anything non-metal. I would have never asked him that question about if he would ever put out anything lighter. Everything, and they say this new Soulfly album, Totem, that they're about to drop on us, is some of the heaviest fucking shit yet.
And the funny thing is, he's a huge reggae guy too.
Yeah. I kind of figured. I have heard him drop Bob Marley references and see him wear the apparel and stuff. So
he's turned me on to a lot of cool reggae stuff, like that movie, The Harder They Come, a Jimmy Cliff movie.
Yeah.
He told me about that. He told me about. He's into a lot of cool, interesting stuff. There was a movie. Oh God, I can't remember it, but the guy that played Boba Fett's father played in this movie, New Zealand movie, where he was like this abusive father, and the son like gets into this New Zealand tribal thing, and I can't remember any of it, but he's turned me on to some interesting stuff. He's pretty worldly. He's the nicest guy. I mean,
well, I had the fortune of meeting him, but it was one of those meet and greets, and it was actually when Soulfly did tour, and they did the Nail Bomb album in its entirety, and he had his son's band Lodi Kong open up for him, and I got to go on the tour bus, but that experience is always very minimal. You kind of keep the line moving or whatever. You go in and get your picture. I did buy a copy of his son's book, and he autographed it and took a picture of me. His son writes horror novels,
right here.
Yeah.
One of them, like this one here, I guess. It's a good book.
Yeah, that's the one I have. Yep, that's the one. Yeah. Extremely good. Max is just one of those guys that I just find like there's just no let up with him. I mean,
look how many years he's had a career. It's unbelievable.
And he's always looking to do side projects too. I mean, he's got the Soulfly, he's got the Cavalier Conspiracy, he's got the Killer Be Kill. He's always dipping his toe in.
So much music on demos. I'm sure one day they got a catalog of stuff. I mean, I could tell you that I've recorded 2 demos with him.
Yeah.
Just Soulfly demos, because a lot of times the band isn't in town.
Right.
He's record songs for the record label.
Right.
Let the record label hear them. So like, there's a demo I did with him where we recorded Helmets in the Meantime.
Okay.
And I think 3 new Soulfly songs. I don't remember what songs they were. And then another one where I did with him it was me and Greg Hallfield in on drums. And we did 2 or 3 Soulfly songs for that demo. for him. But he's got an 8-track. He's been recording on that 8-track for 30 years. It's
just churning out riffs. Yeah,
probably got that same piece of shit 8-track. And he's sitting there with his guitar writing songs on it. And listen, the whole family's unbelievable. Gloria's, matter of fact, in my new book, she wrote the foreword for the new version of Don't Ever Punch A Rockstar.
I've explored social media trying to find him, but I could see that not being his thing. So I think probably getting him as a guest is probably one of those things where I'll go through Gloria, because I am friends.
He doesn't have a social media.
Yeah, so. I am friends with her on Facebook, and Richie from his son that is an Insight. I'm trying to get him to come on too. Just love that family though, right? They just exude metal all the time. How the hell can you not love that? Like, he just seems like, you always hear about these guys, like, and rightfully so, the Hetfields and the Dave Mustaines and the Kerry Kings and all these guys that are legendary in the metal world. But I put him like right there on that Mount Rushmore of metal. I mean, that guy has just always flown the flag. He's never really changed with the times or said, geez, in the 90s, I'm going to try to go for a more grunge sound, or I'm going to go for this sound, or I'm going to, pull back a little. I mean, it's always just straight ahead with that guy. You have to at least respect him for that. Fuck. I mean, that guy is just...
Yeah, I was in a car Saturday night. I went out with my father for a little bit and a buddy. And I was on my way home, and I was listening to XM radio, and a Soulfly song came on, and I was saying to myself, "How is this guy not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?"
I know.
For the amount of years he's done music continuously, for the amount of albums he's put out, and for the quality that he's done and still doing today. I mean,
right.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it was one of my bullet points written down on here. Obviously, a place that has been knocked a lot. Can definitely be seen as kind of snobby sometimes, and downright full of shit with the people that they put in before other people and who they don't put in or whatever. But I know we've seen bands like Metallica. Well, pretty much bands like Metallica. I can't think of anybody else who would be considered extreme metal. But is extreme metal?
Slayer got in it.
Yeah, but is extreme metal, like when you mention like bands like Agnostic Front and Sick of It All? Now, like what they've done in their genre for New York hardcore and that scene and how pivotal it's been, or other bands in the Bay Area scene, or hardcore bands or punk bands. Do you think we'll ever see?
No, they're not getting enough credit. I mean,
more extreme metal in the Rock Hall of Fame.
Black Flag. Think about the bands that really pioneered stuff. Black Flag,
not in. Yeah.
To the Bad Brains.
Yep.
To Jello Biafra's band, Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would accept an award, to be honest with you.
No, probably not. No.
But to think about the pioneers, from Agnostic Front.
Yeah.
To just a ton of them that that whole Bay Area, from Exodus to Testament.
Yeah.
Testament's still playing. And they're great,
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a huge death metal. There's a huge death metal scene down in Florida of bands we mentioned: Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Deicide. A lot of bands that have been doing it for years and years down there. I mean, I don't think just because. Yeah, I don't think just because. I don't know. I just don't see them being having that much forethought and that much vision to get those kind of bands in. I don't think we'll ever see it.
No, I don't see it, but I do see a guy like Max who's had so many different bands and been successful with so many bands, from Sepultura to Soulfly to Cavalera Conspiracy to his new band, Go Fuck Yourself, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name. To Nail Bomb, to that other band with the group of guys that he's in. I can't remember the name. There's a whole bunch of guys.
He's got a ton. He's always willing, and I love his collaborative spirit too, because he's always down to work with interesting and cool people. He just he keeps.
Think about all the people he started to guest stuff with.
Yeah,
on albums. From big bands to a girl in Richie's high school.
Yeah,
that could sing. That they brought, Asha was her name. I think Roxanne or Richie went to high school with her. I can't remember one of them. But just collaborating with a variety of different people. If you're interesting enough that can do something, and something he's willing to incorporate. he's more of I say him over a band like Testament because he's more of a world music guy.
Yeah.
You know, he experiments with different types of instruments, different
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You know,
embraces his South American culture for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been evident in his work. And since me and you get angry about the same shit and we've proven to be kindred spirits, drop a good word for me because I'd love to have Max on.
I will.
That would be that would be, I keep that picture that I have of him on my tour bus. It's one of my prized possessions. I have a picture with him and I have a picture with Henry Rollins. I've been fortunate enough to photobomb and get in with quite a number of what I would consider celebrities and people that have awed me from different bands. I guess they wouldn't awe. I guess if I showed somebody a picture of me and Roger Moret, they wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, you got to meet Roger Moret." But to guys like us, that's a big deal, though. You know, I mean, it's a big deal.
Roger's my neighbor too. I see him. He lives right down the street. Roger lives here in town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this is
now he wrote a book. Now when I saw them, he signed my book. I ran back out to my car to get it and came back in. He wrote an exceptionally great book.
I'm a book guy.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah. Even though my eyes are starting to falter me a little bit, I'm getting more into the audio. I would love to see him do that in an audio version in his voice. I mean, I know
he's crazy. He's got to do an audio book for it. It's really cool. I don't know if he did. You bought it online. You said he did. So I did this. I did this with. It blows my mind. The one we've been talking about with all the crazy pet peeve stuff.
Yep. So
I got the illustrator Mick who drew the book for me. He's out of Australia. He does like a lot of hardcore band stuff. Okay. He's done the Agnostic Front shirts. Some of the most recent ones, probably on that tour you saw. He did that one with the Eliminator, that jacket that they had.
Okay.
The windbreaker jacket.
Okay.
Mick drew that back of that jacket.
Okay. So he works with a lot of these bands.
Yeah, he did the Slapshot album cover. He's done shirts for Murphy's Law, for Madball, for Sheer Terror, for Omerta Clothing. He just did something for Aaron from Death Threat. He's got a new band. I forgot the name. He does a lot. He did some shirts for Northside Kings.
Well, the drawings on that one are hilarious.
He's great.
And he nabs a lot of your reactions on the face too, because that's not always easy to pull off. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he made I had him make up a stamp. So I have this stamp that when I sell a book, I could stamp it, and it's got this picture that Mick drew of Carmine, the character from the book, and it's got his name signed. So, because I stole that idea from Roger, because Roger, in this you can kind of see, I guess in different cities, Roger put a different stamp in the book.
Yeah.
And when he did Phoenix, he did all the stamps for me. That he
did. See, I don't have the stamp, but I got the signature. I got the Roger AF in mind. Yeah, and he was just it's always nice when you meet those people and they are what you want them to be. You know what I mean? Because you are setting yourself up for disappointment when you step to these people and meet them, because you really want to think
the nicest band.
Yeah, great guys.
Front from Gallo. To Craig, to everybody that's in that band.
Yeah, great bunch of guys.
Stigma, he sends me pictures of sausage and peppers and food on the constant, on the regular. People. If I'm with him somewhere, like especially when he comes to town, we go somewhere. I introduce him as my cousin or my uncle. People they believe it because he's such a regular guy, you know.
Yeah.
And Roger's gold, man. The guy's fucking golden.
So let me ask you this: when you work with a guy like Max Cavalera, is it very intimidating because of that legacy, or like what's it work like? Take me like inside of like what it's like working with him. How does he work? Like when he calls you up and says, "Come over and help me with this," you know what I mean? Because I'm imagining that he's very calculated and precise, and like you said, he works that 8-track or whatever he has, and he seems like he's not going to put out anything that he's not going to think is going to kick the fans' asses.
When I first met him in the very first beginning, I was like 18 or 19 years old. I would say I was a little bit more intimidated.
Yeah.
We were down in the band room when he was writing the Roots album.
Yeah.
So we saw a lot of that Roots album being written.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah.
Like when, that one song, I don't know if it's called Attitude, maybe, where it goes, "I can't take it, I can't take it."
Yeah.
We were yelling that because the heat was so hot in the band room.
Yeah.
We can't take it. but you know, I don't really look at them like that anymore. I mean, I've known them for so long.
Yeah.
I babysat those kids. I've, you know, I've been around them for 30 years. So,
Yeah.
You know,
They're like family now.
Yeah, he's not a guy that like really plans much out. Like when we did that song Call to Arms. Was it that one? No, it was the other one, Defeat You.
Yeah.
He was like, I got this riff, and I was thinking about doing a pattern on the song, and I'm like, I got some lyrics as an idea, and you know, we sat down over a bowl of chili. You know, he's gonna say some chili. We wrote that lyrics to that song in like 10 minutes. You know, we work well together. So
got to be an honor working with a guy like that, though. I mean, like just for what he's given us as metal fans. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I have a guitar he gave. I don't have it here because somebody's using it right now. But I have a guitar that he gave me that I've used all through Northside Kings. I used it in Cause for Alarm. I used it a couple times. I played shows with them and filled in on a song or played one time I played Call to Arms and sang it live when they played with Slayer here in town. Dave Ellison played bass, and I
cool.
Never sang and played that guitar.
Yeah,
that song live, and I had to learn it in like 5 minutes.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Ever since him and his brother have not been in Sepultura, and the rest of those guys could be the greatest guys in the world, but I tuned out right then and there.
This guitar that I have, me and a buddy are kind of working on an idea of a documentary, like a short film.
Yeah.
If an object could talk, what would that object say?
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Well, this object was a part of the Nail Bomb album. Yeah. This object was also a part of Chaos AD.
Yeah.
I broke a guy's collarbone with this object in a fight.
It's got stories. It's got
my house fire. I mean, when I tell you that this guitar has got stories, when I toured with Hatebreed, the old guitar player Matt used it the whole tour. So we're working on this idea.
Great idea.
Next week. But I got all the facts now. We just got to kind of lay out what we want to do and how to do it, and the story of a guitar, you know.
So since I have you on here, and you are a fan of extreme metal, and I've been throwing this at the musicians I have had on here that are in that genre of extreme music. How do you feel about this upcoming Pantera reunion? Do you like it? You for it? Against it?
I'll see it. I mean, listen, he's got two great drummer and a great guitar player taking places of those guys, and who wouldn't want to see those songs again? I mean, right. A lot of people are like against it, but I don't know. I mean, would you not go see AC/DC because
right?
Bon Scott? He's dead. You know,
right?
I mean, I saw AC/DC on that Thunderstruck tour, and it didn't bother me.
Right.
That was a whole different singer. You know, I mean,
it's the strength of the songs. It's the songs.
Phil Anselmo will do a good job, hopefully, vocally on those songs still. I don't know if he can hit those notes as old and fatter as he's gotten. That may be a little tough.
And hopefully he doesn't hit. And hopefully he doesn't hit us with any more white powers. I hope that's over.
I don't want to see any.
Yeah. He made a big blunder there, man. And hopefully he's gotten some forgiveness back for it. He did seem to be, pretty apologetic about it. I mean, people do make mistakes. People in the public eye.
That's not a. Don't joke with that.
I know. Yeah.
But I mean, Charlie Benante playing drums and Zach Wild playing guitar. I think I read.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I mean,
what better guitar player could you put to fill in as a dime bag?
You probably couldn't. Yeah, you probably couldn't. So you're gonna reissue the "Don't Punch a Rockstar," right?
Yeah.
So I would be remiss, and I know that we spoke about this in text messages before coming on about, trying to shed the image of being that guy, but I would be remiss in the audience of the Pod Scum audience would want to at least hear just a tidbit of the Danzig incident. What I really want to know is when Danzig shoves you in that video, and for those of you that haven't seen it, it is on YouTube or whatever. So it was really about him hogging up all the time and you guys not being able to play in a nutshell. But when he pushes you, though, I don't know exactly who taught or who the father figure was in Glenn Danzig's life or whatever, but it seems very, odd to me as somebody who loves combat sports and boxing and UFC to push somebody and then drop your hands to your side, especially a guy your fucking size. What was he thinking right there? That you weren't going to hit him back?
I have my own theory on that, and I think
or did he want to get hit back?
I don't think he expected to get hit back. I think
Okay.
he expected to be the guy that looked tough in front of fans and put somebody, and security would break it up. And quite honestly, I didn't think I was going to hit him back. That happened so quickly.
It was very reactive. It was very reactionary. You could definitely tell, man, because you came right back with that overhand right pretty quickly.
And it was very sloppy. It was not a good. This was not a guy
effective though.
Popping a punch. This was like a.
I mean, like, look at you though. You're a big guy. I mean, look at that fist. I mean, you got those big ham hands. You're a big guy or whatever. Who the hell is gonna? I mean, I'm 6'4". You can't tell I'm sitting down in about 250 pounds, myself. So I'm a good sized guy. I wouldn't expect. I wouldn't push somebody and then drop my hands down, especially in today's world. And this is going back some years or whatever, but the world was still a fucking crazy place back then too. You don't know what someone's going to do to you. You know what I mean? You've got to be prepared that I just push somebody. This person is going to come back on the offense at me, and they fully have every right to.
And that's why I hit him so fast, because I didn't want to get hit again. My defense mechanism was like kill or be killed, because I was about to get beat up by a black belt,
Yeah.
And that's why I people joke around. I yelled "fuckity," but I actually said "you fucking hit me," but I said it so fast I was in shock. And listen, that's the way a fight happens. That's a real fight. People be like, "Oh, in a real fight, he wouldn't have done this," or that was a real fight. I mean, real fight, This isn't hard times with fucking Charles Bronson.
Right. Where you guys go back and forth in a Rocky movie and throw punches and fight out on the street for 30 minutes.
This isn't fucking They Live. I'm not Roddy Piper here.
Yeah, it's not Rocky and Tommy Morrison going back and forth, trading big shots.
Son of a bitch, because Mickey loves it.
But but that was what the crux of it was, though, right? Like, you were told that you were going to have a time slot to play, and Danzig just fucking, the egomaniac that he is, just says, I'm going to play my entire catalog. I mean, is that what happens?
No, not really. There was supposed to be 2 stages, and the venue fucked up. The venue being a high school up in the northern Native American region of Arizona. It was supposed to be 2 stages. It got moved to 1 stage. Tire show fell behind. Promoter tried to get him to push his time back. He refused to push his time back. A bunch of bands had to play after him. Who wants to play after him? We negotiate with him. Essentially, we'll play after you, because he's like, I have a contract. I'm like, yeah, well, so do I.
Right.
And I don't give a fuck. You got a piece of paper signed. Doesn't make you better than my piece of paper.
Right.
Motherfucker. So here's the deal. Announce other bands are playing after you, and we're totally cool with it. Otherwise we're going on our time, and you're gonna have to fucking be delayed. And he said, okay, we'll do that. It wasn't him actually, his manager, but they agreed to it. And then he told everybody to get home, have a good night. And all these bands were like, what? And this band drove down from Canada to play the show. Imagine
that's
that.
Brutal. So I imagine there could have been some other people standing in line wanting to punch Danzig that night.
Yeah, I
was driving from Canada. I mean,
I went to talk to him because he was there when I talked with the manager. He overheard the conversation. He was cool with the conversation. So I went to, people were like, well, why'd you go bother him when you talked to the promoter? I went to him because he was the only one there, and he was the one that agreed to go along with announcing other bands, had a piece of paper with those bands' names on it. Don't tell everybody to get home safe. And then the venue turns the lights on, and then everybody's standing around with their dicks in their hand.
People think it's over. Right.
I understand you're the bigger band, and I know my role, and I get it, and I'll be respectful, but in the same token, I don't give a fuck what you've done as a person. Is if you're on the level, I'm on the level.
Right.
If you're not on the level with me, I don't give a fuck who you are. We're gonna have a problem. And
but putting your hands on somebody definitely crosses a line. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to get beat up, so I just smacked him.
I mean, you can tell our Pod Scum audience, though, Danny. Come on, I mean, right here, though. I mean, you sized Glenn Danzig up. This is a fight that you're going to win 7 days a week.
Well, I'm almost 5'11", and then I was probably.
He's about 4'11", right?
I was probably about almost 300 pounds, 275.
Yeah. That's what boggles my mind. That's what boggles my mind is even thinking to shove somebody like you. First of all, you're a big guy. You know what I mean? You obviously hearing you talk and tell that you've got that angry, nasty East Coast attitude that you could tap into at any time. You're the front man for a hardcore band. I mean, all signs point to don't shove this guy, you would think.
All signs point that he was that same guy 20 years prior.
Yeah.
But just shorter.
Now, I think what we need to do is we need to turn that video, man. We need to make him hit the ground, and then he needs to say, "Mother."
He went out this. The book, I tell more of the story. He went out to the tour bus, and he ripped the tour bus apart. They carried him out of the room. It was a lot of crazy stuff. He tried to press charges on me, saying that I assaulted him.
Yeah.
And the FBI showed up.
I mean, that was an instance where thank God for technology, though, because obviously on that video, I mean, it absolves you of anything. I mean, you didn't do anything. I mean, you're sitting there talking to him. You can see your hand gestures. You're having a heated but civilized conversation at that point, it seems like.
I mean, here I am, like, talking to the FBI. I'm like, I'm in deep shit because it was Indian land. So the Indian police, they have to call in some FBI guy shows up, like, backstage. It was like crazy.
But I'm not gonna dispute that Glenn Danzig and his band and bands, previously the Misfits, Danzig, he sold a few albums or whatever. But the amount of hate mail to be able to produce a book, did that many fans really crawl out of the woodwork? And what were people telling you? Like, were you getting stuff as serious as like threats?
Oh yeah. The whole book is full of them. And you got to remember that it was a time where social media was really kind of blowing up,
right?
So we had a website. Our website, we had to shut it off because it was constantly getting.
But where's the confusion with these writers, though? Like, what are they seeing? They're seeing the same video. They're obviously seeing that you didn't assault them. So where's the hate coming from? Where even being a fan of somebody, if I see that somebody, like, for your case in point, we just spoke about Phil Anselmo. I'm a big fan, but not so much a fan of what he did that fucking night. That makes you want to, kind of say, I'm not going to support what he did in that instance. So Danzig fans can't see past their nose despite their face and see that their hero kind of just stepped in the wrong place that night and fucked up.
There's a documentary I just watched on Netflix this weekend called The Most Hated Guy on the Internet.
Yeah.
And it's about this guy who had a website called Are You Up Yet? Or Is It Up Yet? Or something. And this guy, what he did was he was putting pictures up. They called it revenge porn. And he was putting pictures up of girls that he found that were maybe like they sent the picture to a boyfriend and they were topless and the guy was mad at the girl eventually and put it up on this website. And this website was full of it. And these people were commenting so horribly on these girls that were 18, 20 years old. She's fat. She's ugly. She's a piece of shit. Fuck this girl. Hope she dies. Hope she gets raped. I mean, just like horrible shit. People just don't give a fuck when they're behind the computer. And,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's what happened to me. It was that same time as that documentary. It was pretty wild. But that's what was happened to me. And, I pulled up my MySpace page for our band back then, and it was filled with horrible shit. There it is.
Yeah.
It was just constant. People were, everybody that sees something, still to this day. I mean, there's a guy in Ohio that's making these koozies that say, remember when Danzig got punched? And the other side of the koozie is a picture of me and Danzig arguing from a still of that thing.
Yeah.
Somebody sent it to me. I would never have saw it if somebody didn't send it to me.
Right.
But I get anything that happens, I get a message of. And when people were writing horrible shit, people would send me this stuff. If the person themselves didn't send it to me, a friend would show me, look at this shit that's about you. So it was like, and he kept doing interviews saying, saying people do this to set you up, to sue you.
Yeah.
They tried to set me up, or if I wanted to kill that guy, I could, or if I, and he had the platform being in the bigger bands.
Sure, yeah.
So like when Revolver magazine talks to him, he can say whatever the fuck he wants. Revolver's saying who gots to me. They don't give a fuck.
Right. He's reaching a larger audience. Right.
So it just made it worse and worse and worse until I put the book out. And then the book really detailed a lot of stuff in between all the band stories and everything else. It talks about what I went through and having to deal with that and being an adult and dealing with it versus, imagine what it would have been like if I was like a teenager.
Right.
I can handle it as an adult, but as a teenager, you look at things a lot differently. It's kind of like hey, maybe take a look at what you do in your life before you do stuff type of approach. That's what I did.
Right.
I made chicken salad out of chicken shit is basically what I did.
Right. That's well put. So can you let the audience know, when the reissue of this is coming out and where people can find it?
I don't know the date. I know it's like before Christmas. The company's DeWolf, DIWL. Can't spell. Off the top of my head, DIWULF Publishing.
Okay.
But I'll post about it. I have a Instagram page.
Okay.
For, It Blows My Mind. It's called It Blows My Mind.
Okay.
And I also have a website called TotalGavone.com where I sell some shirts, some cool, like a lot of Italian type shirts, like always take the cannoli, or support your local bookies, shit like that.
Kind of like gimmick shirts with that's like pop culture references. That's cool. I like that.
I got a really cool hat right now that's selling really well that just says diplomatic immunity from Lethal Weapon. Diplomatic immunity. Or I got a Steven Seagal type shirt that says anybody seen Richie? And then on the back,
I like
and then the back it says "Rest in peace, Bobby Lupo."
Well, you had made mention of him in the book too, and he has been confusing, going through some couple different periods of weird accents, has he not?
Oh God, yeah. He's a Creole guy to,
and then he was like a black bluesman. He was kind of talking like that for a while, and
that's ridiculous. I did a whole month of Steven. So last year I did an entire month of Steven Seagal movies. 31 days last July. Every night I watched this Steven Seagal movie. He's got that many movies that I was able to watch.
Early on, everything had 3 words in the title, too. Above the Law, Marked for Death, Out for Justice.
And those were great.
Awesome. Yeah.
Especially Out for Justice. That's my favorite.
Well, he was one of the first guys, other than just doing the flashy kicks, he was really one of the first guys with really the graphic bone breaking and crunching stuff. Those crazy clotheslines.
But he started jumping the shark when he did On Deadly Ground, and then it just got like worse and worse.
Yeah,
but it's got, so I'll have the news on there.
Okay.
The best thing to do is maybe follow the Instagram. It Blows My Mind, or subscribe to TotalGavone.com.
TotalGavone.com. All the information to find Danny Marianino wherever the hell he is and whatever the hell he's doing. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you 2 questions before we go. First of all, you got to give the right answer here. The David Lee Roth records, or the Van Halen records, are we the David Lee Roth years, or are we the Sammy Hagar years?
David Lee Roth years.
Oh, that's the correct answer. That's the correct answer, Danny. That's
the David Lee Roth. That's the Van Halen I grew up with. You know, I'm not knocking the Sammy Hagar records because
too many power ballads.
It just was a little. It was just a little different. I mean, I like the. I used to laugh about it all the time. Speaking of the lyrics, David Lee Roth said, and I only found this out a couple of years ago because I was singing it incorrect. When he says "hot shoes burning down the avenue," I always thought he said "hot Jew burning down the avenue," like it was like a hot Jewish girl. And I maybe up until like I was in my 20s that somebody said I was like hot Jew burning down the you know, like hot Puerto Rican broad, you know, like.
Well, when I was talking with Eric AK from Flotsam and Jetsam, man, and trying to tell him about the lineage in the DNA testing being done to prove that I'm David Lee Roth Jr., he actually asked me at the end of the episode to sing a little Ice Cream Man. I obliged him. How could I not, right? He means the guy's a legend, you know, a thrash legend in my mind. All right, so that's my next one then. All right, so when else am I going to get the chance to get the legendary Danny Marianino from the Northside Kings on here? But I hope we'll be able to do it again. I would like to do it again.
Listen, this was just a conversation between two guys.
Yeah.
So I'm down whenever.
What I would like to do is finish this off with, are you familiar with Victim in Pain?
Oh, yeah.
All right. You and me, a little chorus right here. How about that?
I'm never going to remember the lyrics to Victim.
Okay, I'll start you off. Ready? All right, I'll do it once, then we'll go through it. Just the chorus. Why am I going insane?
Why am I the one to blame?
Yeah. I feel good. I feel good that we got that out of our system, Danny. I feel good that I sang a chorus with you, man. I could sit here and talk to you and just bullshit about you about every goddamn chapter in these books, man. It's been a blast talking to you, and I appreciate all the time, man. I really do.
Anytime, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And yeah, you want to do anytime you want me on, I'm in.
And I want you and Max on the next time.
That would be.
I'll put you both in here, man. Oh, I think the room, I do it through Google Meet, so the room I think accommodates something ridiculous because I think it's meant for like webinars and seminars. So you could have like 50 people in here.
Yeah, and I'm sure he will need some help figuring that out. But
well, hey,
I'm sure somebody will help him.
I appreciate it, man. I salute you. I love what you do. I'm looking forward to the books. I love the music, man. It's just been, I knew you'd be an interesting, fun guy to converse with, man. I was a blast talking to you, man. I would love to do it again sometime for sure. We'll keep in touch and
keep in touch, definitely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Danny.
Let me know when this goes live.
I will. The legendary Danny Marianino, a legend to me. That's all I deal with. I mean, legends. And you, sir, are one of them. I appreciate the time, buddy. Thank you.
I make a good meatball parm.
And he makes a good meatball parm. Go see him in Arizona. Just don't stalk him, but because he'll punch you like he did Glenn Danzig, and that's it. Yeah. See that hand? Danny, I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, there you have it right there, man. Great talk with a great guy, the legendary Danny Marianino, hardcore legend to me, lead singer of the Northside Kings, and a little guitar. He does it all. Author of some great books. Let me see if I can tell you what the hell they are here. Again, I don't want to forget the titles. Well, he's got the one called Don't Punch a Rockstar, which is all the hate mail he got from giving the big right hand to Glenn Danzig. And he's got To Make Matters Worse, which is the one that I love, where there is an audio book out of it. And the one that he was kind enough to send me that I got to read this weekend, It Blows My Mind, which is basically a list of pet peeves that are absolutely hilarious. Like he mentioned, his friend that did the illustrations for it. Great stuff. Have you cracking up and laughing your ass off, man. He's a great guest. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is Rex Ruger coming to you from the Den of Sin. And I will see you guys the next time on another episode of Pod Scum. This is your buddy Rex Ruger saying, see ya.